Welcome back to Talks with Tawanda, where healing meets truth and transformation begin. This episode is a little different. It's raw, it's personal. It's a letter I wrote not just for my father, but for every father who left and for every daughter still trying to figure out how to live with the absence. This one is for the little girl inside, the grown woman surviving, and the soul still healing. Let's talk. The father who forgot me. You are supposed to be my protector, my first example of love, the one who reminded me that I was worthy before the world had a chance to tell me otherwise. But you disappeared. You left me before I could spell the word abandon, before I could understand why my heart ached every time I saw a little girl holding her daddy's hand. That was never me. You weren't there when life got loud, when fists replaced words and names was thrown like knives, when I needed someone to tell me that I wasn't what they called, that I deserved softness. You wasn't there. Was I too inconvenient to love? Too much of a reminder of your choices? Did you ever look back even once and wonder how your daughter was growing up without a father's voice? You never taught me what a real man looked like, so I searched for him in boys who broke me. You never showed me what love sounded like, so I settled for silence wrapped in pain. I bled through my becoming because you refused to guide me through it. You should have warned me that a man who said he loves me might still raise his hand. You should have been the one to teach me that my body isn't currency, that my value is not between my legs, or how well I pretend to be okay. But I had to learn it all the hard way, and I survived. Without you, in spite of you. And yet, I don't carry hate for you, not anymore. The weight is too heavy for a woman who's finally learned to fly. I prayed for you, not for your sake, but because grace taught me how to forgive. I've cried for the little girl in me, and now I rise for the woman I've become. You didn't shape me, but your absence did, and still I am here, whole, healing, unapologetically me. And you've missed out on a masterpiece. You helped create, but never stayed to see bloom. Daddy, I forgive you, and I still love you. Rest in peace. Ooh, that was a that was one. Um, I remember writing this years ago. And the reflection of it as I read it was so overwhelming in many different ways. One, because I did lose my father in 2018. It was a year after I left Huntsville, moving to Texas. And his life was taken from him. The weird thing about it was I was hurt because someone felt the need to take his life. But I was saddened because about a year or so before then, I let my dad know that I forgave him. And we was in a space where we was working on mending what needed to be mended for the season that we was in. And so there it was where an opportunity finally was given after 40 plus years. It was very short lived. But I will say, having the moment and the opportunity to at least clear my heart and my conscience of the feelings that I had towards him, um, I'm okay with that. There's not a whole lot of talk that I do about my dad because his absence was enough. It wasn't the ongoing abuse and the neglect and things of that nature. He just wasn't there. Now there was moments where I was able to be in his presence and it was brief and not many times. And I will say that, the love that he did share in those moments, I will cherish that because that's all I had. But I also remember many times I searched for him, not understanding it through some times of it, but getting the revelation of the fact that I searched for him. I dated people that resembled my dad. My dad was on drugs and alcohol my whole life. That was his preference of choice. That was his priority. And where it hurt so many times, so many moments where I just felt like I needed him, where I felt like, why he just didn't allow himself to be capable of loving me helping my mom raise me, and maybe it wouldn't have been so hard. I saw myself in relationships that was such a resemblance, the lack of accountability, the drugs, the alcohol. And those things weren't things that I did, but I attracted those people because of the feelings and I think a part of it, the hatred, the misguidance and understanding that I had in my heart for my dad. But I searched for him. I've entered into several marriages, and I say several because it was 3. That's my story. And I realized, with each one of them, when I look back, like, it was as if I was married to my dad. So I remember a few years before his passing, I'm having a conversation with my brother. We hadn't seen or talked to him in years. To be honest, the only time he really ever reached out is if he needed something. I remember having a conversation with my brother, my oldest brother, about my dad. He had to go down to help him get some things together because he had got his car impounded and got in a little trouble, and he was arrested. But in this moment though, when my brother called me, he said, "Tawanda, I don't know what to do." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Why I've helped dad." So financially he was there. And that's what we did. When he did call and we looked out for him, understanding his situation, not giving excuse to it, but hey, this is what we have, right? And that didn't mean that we wasn't hurt or disappointed and things of that nature, but God had blessed in our life. But in this moment, my brother stated, he said, "Well, um, Dad's not really talking good. He's talking about wanting to take his life and things of that nature." He said, "I don't know how to feel about it." He said, I don't want him to take his life, but also, we got to think he hadn't been in ours." And he was on point with that because it was a fact, and I felt the same way. And so I was sitting there talking to him. He said, "I got his car out. I got him out of jail. I put a few dollars in his pocket and this and that." He said, "But I don't know what to do." He said, "To one, I'm torn." And then quickly on my feet, I thought, like, "Okay, D," I said, "Well, you have a business and I have a room." I said, "If you can bring him back to Huntsville, we'll take care of him. We'll make sure he's good." And my brother, he's like, "Are you sure?" Because you have your family there. We knew that my dad wouldn't been able to stay in his home. My brother wouldn't have mind, but he also had to protect his family. And we're not knowing a lot about our dad, but we do know there's substance abuse. But we've never around him long enough to really know his temperament or anything about him. But God did tell me that it was gonna be okay. And I said, "Well, if you can give him a job," because my brother has his company. He said, "If you can give him a job, I'll give him a place to stay." And my brother didn't like that idea at first. He's like, "No, Tawanda, I can't let you do that neither because, you have your kids and things of that nature." I said, "Dale," I said, "It's gonna be okay." I said, "I think I need this." I said, "It's gonna be okay, but what we can't do is allow, if something happened, his blood to be on our hands." And the reason I said that is because at the end of the day, irregardless, yes, it hurt. It bothered that he wasn't there when it was the simplest things we needed, which was a conversation or check on us and, let us know that we have some type of importance in your life. And, but yet he chose what he chose, and he then chose to be in relationships that he didn't even allow us to be a part of, our dad's life. And so we were stuck in a moment here, and it wasn't, we didn't have a lot of time to think about this because I fear, just like my brother feared, like, what if we leave him and he do take his own life? He hadn't lost his wife. He's lost everything that he has at this point. When we look at our life, and like I told him, I said, we look at our life, we're being blessed. Without his presence, yes, it hurt. And there are some things that we've had to encounter throughout times, but we've been blessed. I said, I think that this to be the right thing to do, and I think we'll be okay through it. And I was right. The spirit was right because so we put everything in motion and we got our dad to Alabama. And it was kind of cool. It was some cool moments. I'll tell you. I just wished he would have allowed himself to be present because we would have had an amazing time. But for what it's worth, just accepting him for who it is. But I understood, one time having a conversation with my dad while he was here that he was ashamed. He felt worthless himself. So it's like, how could he teach me anything differently if he didn't feel it himself and no one was there to teach him? No one was there to share and show him. He dealt with his own trauma and his own pain and past. And, like just like my mom, like, where my story is my story, and I can't ignore the things that happens and the feelings that I had. I also I wanna be honest when I say that there's compassion in what they had to deal with. And so but I remember, though, being in the house with my dad, and it was like I can't even explain the moment because it was so weird. When I say it resembled so much of, relationship, emotionally unavailable. And don't get it twisted. Yeah, we had some laughter moments. That was my dad. So when you look at that aspect of things, but when I look at the core, when I take the surface away and look at the core, he was emotionally unavailable. There was days that, we're in the house and I'll just walk in and I'll getting things together and, "Hey dad, hey babe." And that was just it. Like there was no conversation. And it was pretty much most of the time, for the most part, we couldn't really it wasn't really a lot of engaging in conversations until one day I remember sitting and I walked in here. I could kind of tell that he was happy and he was okay. I could tell that he was kinda still guarded and bothered, and I told him, I said I just walked in the room and I said, "Dad," I said, "I've given a lot of thought to some things." And he looked at me with this little look in his eyes like, "Okay, Lord, am I finna lose my place to stay or something?" I'm dramatic sometimes, so I said, "I gave him some thoughts to some things, and I wanted to let you know that I forgive you." He said, "Baby, you do?" And the moment within seconds of me saying it, tears started rolling down his eyes, and I don't think I never saw him cry because, again, I wasn't around him a lot. And I told him, "Yes, I forgive him." Now, although, later on I had to prepare my dad to be in his own place because, um, through that moment, I think God needed me to see something. And that was another season of healing for me. It was a part of me that was still understanding, but also becoming at the same time. I had realized that the relationships that I had been in and in this moment, here it is, I'm entangled into a relationship that turned into a marriage that's still a product of me searching for my dad. And, I remember, I've moved away, so I'm in Texas now, and I'm shortcutting this story, so I don't wanna drag it out, but there's always questions are always welcome. I remember leaving and, at this time when I left, me and my dad, we would have conversations pretty often. He just randomly checked up on me. And y'all, let me tell you, it was like it felt good. "Hey baby, hey, you want nothing? I just wanna call, check on you, tell you that I love you." You know? And that's kinda how I resembled his voice, kinda sounded. Is like, "Aw, Dad, I'm doing good. And, thanks for checking on me. Yeah, I just want you to know I love you, and I missed a lot of time, but I ain't gonna miss no more time now. I just wanna let you know I love you," and I appreciated that. I appreciated him in the moment that I spoke about when I said that, "I forgive you, Dad." He said, "Baby, I'm so sorry." He said, "I didn't know no better." Really, he said it kinda like, "Baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't know no better. And I was just, young and, just going through it and, didn't really know and, you know, that's how he talked. And I remember, I was relieved in that moment because if nothing else, because I realized he couldn't take back the days that we missed. Those moments cannot be replaced, but we could move forward, and moving forward with accountability, or moving forward with having him to say, "Man, I'm so sorry. I wasn't the person that I should be." I was okay with that, and I remember getting the call in 2018 that stated my dad died. My dad was killed, actually. I remember getting that call, and it was the weirdest moment because my heart ached at finding out how. Because to be honest with you, I always kinda thought that, you know I always had this thought, like, when would the moment be? When would we get that call? Because like I say, doing drugs or and alcohol, but I thought it'd be something more natural. I would have respected something more natural, not someone, carelessly and, heartlessly taking his life, and it was very heartless. And I remember getting that call, so my heart ached for him, but it also was relieved because at that moment, I realized that although I had forgiven my dad and things of that nature, I still had to mourn the part of him that I know I never would have had or never would have been able to have even with him being here because of who he is. So that was my expectations, and I had to lower them with respects to where he was. And I remember though having a moment of saying, "Whew, I don't have to search for him no more." And it may be weird to you, but it was revelation to me because at that moment I clearly realized that these relationships you've been in, you've been searching for your dad. And where I realized it before I left Alabama when he stayed with me, then at this point, like I said, I was entangled in something, and it was something that woke up in me. It was something that shifted in me, and healing really started having to take place. And when it took place, it shook the ground. It shook the grounds not in a bad way where bad things happened to a degree where things took place. I had to grow, strengthen, let go, lose, lost. Oh my gosh, it was all happening. But I say that to say it all happened with purpose. That was another moment I realized I had to heal from. Even when I told my dad that I forgive him and that I love him, that second part of that, I had to forgive myself because see, I had allowed myself because of how I felt and the void that I had and what I was searching for, I allowed myself to be in rooms that I shouldn't have been in. And where I can easily blame the person that hurt me, I am okay with taking accountability, say I placed myself in rooms I should not have been in. Even though I felt hurt or felt neglected or rejected or whatever the case may be, I still had to be okay with accepting accountability to the fact that I allowed myself in rooms that I shouldn't have been in. So regardless of what others thought of me, I wish I would have known earlier that it's what I thought of myself, which would have been more important. But I had to go through some things. I had to learn through it. I had to grow through it, and I had to break some generational curses. I had to endure some things that was painful, and I had to overcome some things that was it just felt like it was just impossible, but possibilities lies in everything. So I say that to say to the fathers that's out there, sometimes you don't understand it's not about your money. And the anger and the bitterness and the walls that you have up between that mother and yourself should have nothing to do with that child. Even through my dad's habits, I would have still loved him if he would allowed me to. I wasn't there to judge him. I just needed him to love me. Maybe I felt sometimes too I could have loved him through it if he just would have allowed me to. But its presence, just knowing that irregardless if you took those drinks or you took those smokes or whatever it was you was doing, just to know that I was on your mind. Cause you can say that I was. You could say all day, like, "I think about you all the time," but never tell me so it don't matter to me because I don't know it, I don't believe it, I don't hear it. Your presence, fathers, are important, and especially in your daughter's lives because you're the first person that teaches her how she's supposed to be loved. My daddy taught me that I was supposed to be loved in a manner that hurt, a manner that left scars, in a manner that left me unsure of self. I learned from his absence what relationships look like. I didn't have the role models around me. So, yes, there was a lot of things that we'll hear about from my stories that I allowed myself to be in places of. And I'm not here to blame nobody. I'm here to share my story to release myself, understanding that this was just my life. And how sometimes the things from our past could be the very things that we allow to carry on with us to shape who we are day after day after day. And the more that we allow ourselves to sit in that dark space, not allowing ourselves to heal, we just continuing to put more hurt and more pain on top of what's there. It just makes things worse for us. If I can leave you with nothing else, I can leave you with this. Even if it started from childhood, daughter, sister, even if it started from childhood, you still have the opportunity to be greater than your past. Your pain, yes, it hurt, but allow your pain to be your purpose. The decisions you make, understand that they're your decisions. Once we reached a certain age, the decisions that we made, the choices that we made, we can no longer blame someone else for it. We can't blame our parents. We have to decide to stop the bleeding. Just think of it. you've gashed your leg, you're sitting there bleeding out. Are you gonna wait for somebody to show up to get you cloth to cover the wound? Or you're gonna take and you're gonna look around and you're gonna use the resources you have to bandage that wound yourself? Sometimes we're just stuck in positions to do that. Sometimes we're in positions where we have to bandage those wounds ourselves because that person won't be able to come back to bandage it. That person may not be mentally, could be physically present, but mentally incapable of being able to bandage those wounds. But you owed it to yourself. You owed it to yourself to understand that you're worthy to be loved. You owed it to yourself to understand that your feelings do matter, that you are important. And irregardless of the abandonment and the people that didn't stand by your side, just know that you are needed and your past don't define your future. You define your future. You determine how you want it to look, even if that's from a healthy relationship. First, in order to get that healthy relationship, you have to make sure you're mentally healthy yourself. So this is your moment to take the time. Cry if you need to cry. Write it out if you need to write it out. Ask for forgiveness for self. Ask for the forgiveness for the next person. Whatever you have to do, just do yourself a favor and let it go. It's not worth holding on to. And some of us have been raised with parents that didn't know no better themselves. Yes, they have to be accountable for their actions, but we don't have to be the ones to hold them accountable. We can be the ones that can forgive them so that we can free ourselves. They have to deal with their own consequences. And forgiving them does not mean that, oh, they just have to apologize because sometimes you won't get that. My mom would not apologize for anything that she done. And I had to get to the point of understanding and respecting that. I had to get to the point of understanding that's just who she are, and being that she's who she is, I'm gonna love her in her box. I'm just not gonna stand in that box with her. So I'm gonna be okay to be open to forgive her. I'm gonna be okay to say, where it do hurt, I'm not gonna allow it to penetrate my heart. Those are choices that we made. And from that moment, we have to allow the little girl in us that missed out on that dad, that missed out on our parent, that missed out, which seems like so much on life. We have to tell that little girl it's going to be okay. So it's okay, little girl. What should I do? Should I run because of fear? Should I bury myself behind the lies that I have built, saying that it's okay being alone? Here in my heart, love has no home. I'm tired of singing that sad old song. Sitting back thinking about my past and the pain, trying my best to explain the feeling that have me feeling insane. Who can I blame but myself? I allowed my herself to be hurt in the past by someone else. Not wanting to leave because I wanted to be needed, pleasing someone more than the time I needed to embrace myself. Sitting here, not really mad about the past, just wishing now in my presence, love is what I had. Fighting with myself all this time, lying to myself with tears I try to hide. Not wanting to face the things that I share with myself, now finally realizing I do want and need someone else. Lying here in this cold world, trying to comfort this hurt little girl that's scared of the light that shines so bright, trying to convince her that everything will be all right. It's okay, little girl, I say to myself. I give you permission to be loved by someone else. There is no need to hide about how there's no to hide behind the walls of your fears, chances you will have to take. It's okay, my dear. And if it don't work out, hold your head up high and smile. Don't allow yourself no more time to hide in a dark, pitiful blue cloud. I give you permission to laugh with the okay to smile. No need to hide out or to be down. No worries, no fear. It's okay, little girl, to allow in your heart love to live. Little girl, I say, lift your head up high. It's okay for you to have love in your life. I want to thank you for listening to this piece of my story. My letter wasn't just for him, it was about me. It was for me, and it's for you. If you've ever felt abandoned, forgotten, or unloved, by someone who was supposed to show you the way, if this spoke to you, I want to invite you to start your healing journey today. If there's any questions, reach out to me and let me know. But please go ahead and share, subscribe, and continue to heal. I want to leave you with a couple of affirmations and just take these with you. Maybe they'll help you in your journey as they have done myself. I am not what I miss. I am who I choose to become. I am healing, whole, and worthy of love, starting with my own. I love you. I love you. I love you. I say also to leave with you, take about 15 minutes today and write your own letter, whether it's to a parent,